Welcome to That Guy Talks Movies. I am That Guy Talking Movies, and I'm late with this. This is going to be my review of Furiosa, or my thoughts on Furiosa. The movie came out like a week ago, and I missed it because I was out of town. So I was traveling out of town on a road trip, went down to Atlanta, and I didn't get a chance to see this in that time. So I figured, you know what? It's not too late. I'm going to put up the video. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. That guy's going to talk Furiosa. And if you've seen it already, then you'll leave comments below and you'll tell me, what you thought. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I'm saying? And if you haven't seen it, this video will either inspire you to go see it or it'll stop you from going to see it. Let's get into it right now on That Guy Talks Movies. Okay, so Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, directed by George Miller. Once again, who's done, 5 films in the Mad Max franchise, and the guy is just unstoppable. This stars Anna Taylor-Green as Furiosa, or I should say young Furiosa. There's also a younger Furiosa played by Aaliyah Brown, who did a fantastic job. As far as the casting goes, actually, the transition from that younger one into Anna Taylor-Green's Furiosa was pretty seamless. I mean, she looked very much like her. They had like the same lip thing going on in the eyes. So this is a story, the backstory to Furiosa. And I guess what really needs to be said here is, does it work or doesn't work? And I will tell you, I will preface all this by saying what I said in my original review for Mad Max Fury Road, which I thought was I still think is quite possibly the greatest action film of the last 20, 30 years. It's just an incredible film. And I'm going to start by saying what I said in that video when I reviewed that. And I said, what made that so good was there was no superfluous plot line. There was no extra fat. There was nothing going on. There was no romance with, Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron and the characters. And there was no backstory and side stories and extra plots. It was kind of just go from here to there with a bunch of crazy rad, people chasing you. And then from here back to the Citadel. That's what it was. And in between all that was a boatload of action that was directed and executed so perfectly by George Miller that it just was a flawless freaking film. So with the Furiosa backstory coming into play, right away you're thinking, okay, you've got to have some sense of story, right? You need to have her backstory. So instantly you're creating some sort of narrative that's going to take place. And I figured that would weigh this down a little bit. However, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that they did a great job of giving you her story and, from when she's young and developing her character into the older Furiosa, which, is in Fury Road. I thought they did a great job. And I think what sells it and why they did a good job was because they didn't focus too much on the story. Yeah, you got the little girl and you got to see that, but what they did was wrap it all in what made Mad Max Fury Road so freaking good. They wrapped it in action. George Miller knows how to direct. The cinematography, the action sequences, the way they're put together, some of them even better than what I saw in Fury Road. Incredible, except for the fact that there's a few times I noticed when there were some war boys on top of one of the rigs, I think the war rig, and you can see the green screen or the CGI kind of, you could tell it wasn't like a practical background or whatever it was. It just stood out a little bit. And, if you know the George Miller whole, thing, they do practical effects, they do real stunts, and the whole thing is done in camera. It's not a whole bunch of, visual effects and green screen. But in this case, I saw a little bit of it and it kind of threw me off for a few seconds. But other than that, the action sequences, the audio on this, the sound, my prediction right now, I will say it on That Guy Talks Movies, is that come award season time, you're going to have Furiosa, Dune 2, and Civil War. Those are 3 instant contenders for nominees. I can pretty much tell you right now, and we'll see what else comes out. But right now, I know that those 3 are going to be in contention. So I thought this was great. Now, let's get into some of the things. Chris Hemsworth obviously has a big role in this. He plays Dementus, who is the villain in this movie, right? So Immortan Joe is still in this film, but Dementus, the new character played by Hemsworth, is the baddie. He's actually the one that's actually affecting the Furiosa storyline. I'm not going to give any spoilers here, right? My take on him is that I think the character, I think that Hemsworth did a good job, as he's prone to do. I don't think it was a matter of him handling the material. I think it was just the way the character was written. I know you hear a lot of people say, oh, he did a great job. He knocked it out the park, you know, the character. But honestly, I thought at times the character was too sticky, like too campy, comic-y. And it took away from how serious I would actually take him, even though this guy was doing diabolical stuff and murdering people the way he did. It just made it kind of light, almost too funny for that world, for me personally. He didn't do a bad job. I understand what they were trying to do with the character. This guy was a bit zany. I get it. But it was not a insanity or psychotic guy that you took serious. It was more like a guy that you'd make fun of. He just thought more of himself than he really was, and I think it came off at times as too silly. But overall, it works. It's not a bad thing. Overall, you get great cast here. You get Maury Morton Joe. You get to see the world kind of expanded a little bit, because this time, instead of hearing about Gastown, you actually see Gastown. Instead of hearing about the Bullet Farm, you actually go to the Bullet Farm. So the world expands a little bit, and I am here for every minute of it. And I think if they continue down this road and they expand it even more, could be a nice thing to see. I do caution that as great as George Miller is, and as much as I'd easily go see another one of these films, I do worry that at some point it will just get worn out. You know, you'd have to get really creative and really inspired to do something all new in the same world, right? Like to push another story in this world. So we'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe he will. I mean, he had this one on the back burner for, like, I think since 1985 or 87. He had originally done the backstory here and did Mad Max Fury Road way back when. This was already a script and stuff was being developed for years. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what's next. I would highly recommend going to see this on the largest screen possible. I did not see it on a true IMAX screen yet. I probably will see it a second time, but I enjoyed every minute of it. I think it's a great film. I think there's a few things plot point wise and a few little things that kind of don't match up right away, and you kind of scratch your head and go, wait a minute, how did that happen? But other than that, again, it's the action. It's the war boys. It's the war rig. It's the vehicles. It's the sequences, the way they're put together. It's the sound and the performances all together. Fantastic film. That's it for That Guy Talks Movies. I can overtalk it, undertalk it, whatever. I think it was great. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments below what you think of the film. If you're going to see it, come back after you've seen it. Let me know in the comments. If you've not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe to this channel right now. There's all sorts of stuff coming. All right. And if you like the video, important that you hit that like button, because that makes a difference in all the YouTube magic that goes on behind the scene. And I will see you on the next That Guy Talks Movies. Peace.